and I'm gonna get to part 2 of the dress video. I had some personal issues involving one of my children, and on the topic, I do have a GoFundMe to help with my legal fees. I don't have an attorney right now, and sometimes the legal things get a little bit over my head, and it'd be nice if I can have an attorney to just handle that for me. Anyway, so one of my friends on Instagram messaged me and she was like, hey girl, I listened to that episode. Great episode, meaning the last one. She was like, but here's the thing. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about because, and I think some people on the influencer shit will know what I'm saying. Like, you don't necessarily post the exact same content to all social media sites because the audiences are different or like the vibe is different. So I never did end up posting the dress video to Instagram. So, and there are people who don't follow me on social media. So I wanted to explain the video and explain the background now that I'm so far removed from it and like the emotions have been, settled. What happened was my daughter was graduating 6th grade, leaving, childhood elementary and going into middle school. And it was like a big milestone event. What happened on our side was when I was realizing, oh shoot, I'm sending you off to your dad's house and you're going to be going to school on your graduation day with him. Do you have clothes to wear? Do you know what you're going to wear? Like, are you prepared? How can I help you? She was like, actually, I don't have something to wear. Can we figure something out? And I was like, okay. Money and time were both a little bit tight, if I'm being honest. And I was like, and I was talking to Mandy. She was like, you know what? I just ordered a bunch of shit from Forever 21 because it was like on clearance. So I just have a bunch of shit. You want to see if there's something she likes? There was a dress, or she was like, I don't think this dress fits me. Let's see if she likes it. And I was like, okay. I offered it to my daughter. She's like, oh my God, I love it. Yeah, I'll wear it. She ended up leaving it at my house accidentally. The one house does not allow communication between homes. It's fine by me if the kids talk to their dad while they're here. I really don't care. He can call them. They can call him. If they ever ask me to call him, I always call and facilitate it. If he tries to call, I will always answer and just hand them the phone and give them privacy to talk to their father. That courtesy is not returned. Because there's not communication between the two homes, she couldn't call me and say, hey mom, I forgot the dress. So their solution was to buy her a new dress. Now, this is his child. He didn't buy her a dress. He had his girlfriend take her out and take her to buy a dress. And it was just the two of them. And it was like a little simulated mother-daughter shopping day for this big milestone event that my daughter was really excited for. And I never even gotten anything that they were going to do that. Like, number one, nobody helped her to call me to say, hey mom, I forgot the dress that you got me or that, you helped me get. Can you bring it to me? Can I pick it up? Can you drop it off at school? Nobody called me to do that. And then nobody even invited me to take part in this milestone event. I know it's not as big as a wedding day dress, but let's scale it up a bit. Would you do that? No, you wouldn't go wedding dress shopping and exclude the mother that is in a good standing relationship with their child. You know what I mean? So the video was right when I went to my daughter's graduation. Also to note, of the 3 parents, step parents involved in the situation, I'm the only one who actually attended the graduation and was there to clap and support this child in this actual milestone moment. So I was the only adult there to watch the graduation, and when I saw her walk the stage, I was like, what the fuck is she wearing? That's not the dress. And I was like, oh, I wonder, okay. And then I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if she left the dress and blah blah. Well, then when I learned that it was a mother-daughter date, and he was handing our daughter to this other woman, hey, do you want to have this pretend mommy-daughter day with my daughter because her mother's not here? That's not right. You don't get to just exclude me from a situation. Also, side note, not long before this, maybe a week before, one of my closest friends from childhood, I've known this woman since I was 11 years old, lost her only child in a terrible car accident. So I was still stunned at my friend's loss, and her son is the same age as my daughter. And I would always hope that our kids would get to meet someday, and it just was cute that they had similar interests and similar stupid shit that they would do. So I was kind of, every milestone, every moment I can have with my children matters to me. And especially if it's something linked to something like a milestone. So I was genuinely fucking hurt that I was excluded from this mother-daughter date because I'm her mother. You can be a bonus mom, but you're definitely not a fucking stepmom. You ain't stepping in nobody's motherfucking shoes. Mom is here, present, active in her life, you don't need to step in. You can be a bonus, but you're definitely not going to step in and push me out of the way. And that's what the stupid fucking stepmother community on TikTok didn't fucking understand and were trying to come for me. Sit the fuck down. There's mad room for all the love. Go through all my shit. You know what? My friend Zoe just put it so perfectly the other day, and this is exactly my sentiment with everything. For the good of all and the harm of none. That is exactly my intention all the time. That doesn't mean I don't get to stand up for myself. That doesn't mean I don't get to fucking mouth off when I'm fucking pissed. And so that was the video. I was mouthing off. I was like, who the fuck do you think you are, taking my daughter to this fucking moment? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm popping off. Here's what happened. That shit got picked up on Twitter. Twitter went crazy with it. The Shade Room picked it up. They ran a story. Like, you know, like my fucking radio DJ was talking about it. Dragging me like I'm some bitch, bitter baby mama. Which was so annoying, which is what took me so, and then people were coming. It was just a mess. So that's the video. And if you listen to the last episode about triangulating, that's the history behind us. I've never met this woman. Never. She's never, I have sent her go to the Shade Room article. I'll link the fucking Shade Room article because I posted the motherfucking receipts. When my dog turned 1, I had a fucking birthday party and invited all of them to like a neutral location for like a neutral thing, so that if any of us got uncomfortable, we could be like, oh, the dog. And then it was at an open park, so nobody felt stuck or trapped in any way. She didn't come. She didn't. I have extended kindness and grace to this person and still do. Can you please, you know what I mean? This woman has never even looked me in the face. I've never even seen her in person. The one time that I had to pick up my children from her home because their father was unable to tend to them, she wouldn't even open the door. She like literally hid behind the door. And the one chance I had to speak to her, I was like, we can be friends. Like, girl, you're paying to keep him, honey. I'm paying to keep him away. Because I actually pay child support. That's another reason you want to donate to my GoFundMe, please. I gotta get a lot of shit fixed. But anyway, that's the story of the viral video. That's the story of why I was pissed off, because I got nothing but all I want is my daughter to have a good life. If that means I gotta grit my teeth and pretend like I don't give a fuck what I gotta do. If I get to be a part of some fun event for my daughter, I'm here for it. And I know my daughter loves me and would have loved to share that moment with all of the people she loves. And it's not her daughter. She has a father. He could have jumped on that moment and been like, oh shit, father-daughter date. Baby girl, let's go. And took his daughter out and had a father-daughter date. I wouldn't have been mad at that. I would have been like, are you fucking kidding me? Wow. Oh my God, I'm so happy you have that beautiful memory with your dad. How was it? Okay, I hope this happens more often. Wow, beautiful. Did you only get one? Did you get more? Like, what happened? What did you eat? I would have been so fucking into it. All I want is for my kids to be healthy and happy. That's it. So, Shoe Lover felt the need to address me, just like Mental Healness did. He did it with quite a sense of humility and grace that I can't even put into words. Shoe Lover a little bit came at me, but with kindness. And knowing her story and then referencing Atlas of the Heart by Brené Brown, I understand why she came for me this way. Shoe Lover makes it very clear, if you've watched any of her videos, or not any, if you've like watched her for a while or some of her earlier videos, she makes it very clear she had a really rough relationship with her mother, her birth mother. I think her birth mother like abandoned her, or there was some sort of rough relationship. And she did have to rely on the kindness of other people to kind of fill that role in her heart. And now she is a very passionately loving mother to her children. And when I recorded the previous episode, she had actually tragically lost one of her children. It was in the news. It was horrible. So I'm not coming for her. She's a person and she's coming from it from her own perspective. But that's where I lean on Brené Brown, because Brené Brown is amazing. And she's a professor at the University of Texas. And she's done like over 20 years of research on emotions and feelings. And she's written many books. She's a New York Times bestselling author. And in Atlas of the Heart, she literally starts it by saying our connection with other people is only as solid and deep as our connection to ourselves. So when you're looking at a situation, you can kind of only put your little stank on it. You can only look at it from the perspective you're at. Like literally for the biblical people, like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels, I remember I'd always be like, but why the fuck we gotta read the same story 4 times? It was like so annoying. And then they were like, well, we want to see it from the different perspective because they were all blah, 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 blah. And I'm not a religious person. That's just the only like thing I can, like analogy I can relate it to. But, you know, I always use the analogy also like you can only be tempted by something that lives inside of you. I'm not tempted by drugs. I've never been into drugs. They're not my thing. If somebody literally dropped an ounce of cocaine at my house, I would probably think it was like duh. I wouldn't even know what to do with it. I wouldn't be tempted to do it. I'd throw it away or you know what I mean? Like you can't pull something out of somebody that doesn't live in there. So when Shoe Lover addressed me, she was addressing me from the pain of her position of being the child whose mother did not provide for her and the child that had to rely on kind strangers to meet those needs. In her video, she's kind of basically like, hey mom, sit down. When someone's offering love to your child, you take it because not all children are loved and blah, 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 kind of coming at me. In a kind way and in a way of like, think of your daughter. Brené Brown also goes into this idea of near enemy, and it's kind of like this Buddhist teaching of two things that are very similar, and you can really be confused by them if you're not paying attention, but one is true and one of them is one is going to fool you. You know, one is an enemy, kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like far enemy would be the opposites, like love and hate. That's clearly the far enemies of each other. If I don't love you, I fucking hate you. Black and white, up and down. Those are far enemies, the opposites of each other. Near enemies are two things that like really look similar. In these really gross, toxic relationships, near enemy can look like jealousy, neediness, possessiveness. You know what I mean? Like when you're in a tender place emotionally and you're a little bit lost and someone is like fighting for your love and who's that guy looking at you? Only I have eyes for you. You're kind of falling for it. Do you know what I mean? And that's the near enemy. That is not at all what love is. Love is not controlling, possessive, and jealous and all those things, you know? But if you're not seeing things clearly, you're going to get those things confused. She talks about empathy. This one really helped me understand this so much because she breaks empathy down into two different things. There's cognitive empathy and then there's affective empathy. And I think a lot of the people who walk around this world who are like,
I'm just an empath and I'm really just, hurt people are drawn to me and I feel it's my purpose in life to heal them no matter how much suffering I go through.
No. You're suffering from affective empathy, which is where you take on all of the emotions of the other person, causing enmeshment, where you don't know where you begin and they end, and it's just this ugly mess of you putting your needs last to take care of this person's needs. They're not taking care of their needs. You don't have it in you to take care of their needs because you don't know them. You don't know them like they know them. Only they really know what they need. But you're spinning your wheels trying to do something for somebody who doesn't have the energy to do it for themselves. And then you're burning your, candle at both ends. And it's a fucking mess. You're not just an empath and you're spiritual and blah, blah, and cursed. No, you don't have fucking boundaries. That's your fucking problem. Because she talks about cognitive empathy where it's like, I get it. I fucking get it. Let's talk about it. It's just being there with somebody, which sometimes it's hard. It's literally like saying, hey, you are sitting in a pool of shit. That septic tank bust in your backyard. You need help fixing it. I'm going to hop in that bitch with you and let's swim in this shit together. I don't have a fucking solution. No. But, I don't want you to be alone in that ugly nastiness, so let's do this together. That's kind of more what the cognitive empathy is. The way I kind of picture it is kind of like a paint by number versus watercolor. Do you know what I mean? And in Brené Brown's research, she even says that in like the 20,000 hours of data shit that she collected, the number one thing that caused somebody to have the most empathy for somebody was having strong, defined boundaries. Because I can't help you if I don't know where you begin and where I end. How can I help you? How can you help someone who's drowning if you're drowning yourself? That's like the number one thing you learn in lifeguarding shit and learning how to save people in water. You have to be a really strong swimmer. You have to make sure you have a flotation device. and you need to approach them correctly and carry them correctly, because the number one way to drown is by trying to save a drowning person. And that goes for emotional, logical, rational, anything. The near enemy of empathy, and empathy is like a subset of compassion. Compassion is that it's saying like, I will be here with you. The near enemy of empathy is sympathy. So instead of saying like, oh man, I'm gonna sit in that shit with you, it's like, oh man, that stinks. That's smelly and that's a big problem. And I'm sorry you're going through that. And, you know, kind of checking out, just leaving the person alone. Like that, you see how that kind of seems kind? Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through that. I'm so sorry you're struggling. Wow. Okay, have a good day. There's no, I'm just saying words so that I feel better. There's nothing to you. There's no comfort or love towards you. I'm just saying words so that I feel better, so that I can get out of this awkward situation without feeling like an asshole. Anyway, she basically says that there's so many people who don't know how to tolerate pain, inflicting pain on others, as opposed to dealing with their feelings. As opposed to just being like, hey, let's all just feel what we're feeling, live life together, and understand that we're all human, we're all connected. People just hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. Compassion is a choice. It is a choice to say like, I want to practice empathy. It is a skill set. Empathy is something you learn. You can get better at it, just like mental illness. He talks about, I'm a diagnosed narcissist. Well, how the fuck do you think he got diagnosed as a narcissist? Because people in his life were telling him, hey, I noticed these things. Or maybe he himself was noticing, hey, what's going on in my life? And he sought help. And now he has a diagnosis. And now he works on himself. And he's a better person. Do you know what I mean? How simple that all works out. It's a choice to be empathetic. Just because you're a narcissist, like mental illness, doesn't mean you can't realize where you're wrong. In the book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Mind of Angry and Controlling Men by Lindy Bancroft, you don't get to make up excuses for why you're mean to people. You don't get to be like, oh, well, I'm stressed out because of work. Okay, but that doesn't give you a right to come home and scream at everybody or ignore everybody or just be a dick. No. Get another fucking job if you don't like it, then, you fucking idiot. Ugh. Also, she talks about judgment, which I felt very judged. Obviously, I was. But you can only judge people in areas where you struggle with shame. And you always pick people worse than how you perceive yourself as doing. So judgment is just super duper ugly. Obviously, everybody who was watching me on the internet was like, clearly I'm doing better than this bitch on the internet complaining. But obviously, that's something that you struggle with. Obviously, it struck a chord with so many people. I mean, I know growing up, I had a rocky relationship with my mother. It's not until like literally every day now that I'm realizing all my mother did for me to get me to this point, how much of a normal fucking human she was. And she was doing her fucking best. No matter how much I may have thought in the moment I didn't like the decision she was making or whatever, I now know she was genuinely doing her best. This is a hard fucking world to live in and to be raising kids in. So yeah, and the near empathy to connection is control. So if you're, the near enemy to empathy was sympathy. Instead of being like, hey, I want to sit in this shit with you, it's like, ooh, I'm so sorry you're experiencing that shit. Those are two very different statements. The near enemy to connection is control. So going back to the near enemy of thinking like jealousy and neediness and possessiveness is actually love, that's just control. That's not connection. You don't have a connection with this person. They just want to make sure they have you on a fucking rope, on a string, and they can control your every thought and your every move. That's not a loving relationship. That's not built on like love and mutual respect. That's like built on control. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. That is near enemy. Like, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Do you know what I mean? This makes a whole lot of sense when you put it all together. And words matter. She talks about that a lot too, like naming your emotions, naming what's going on, talking about what's going on exactly as it is also going to affect how you remember it. So the more you make up lies for this person in your life and cover up what they're doing and make excuses, the more you're believing it yourself too. You got to get honest with yourself first, because what did she originally start out with? Our connection with other people is only as solid and deep as our connection to ourselves. So you're going to stay in this superficial, fucked up relationship with this toxic person because that's your relationship with yourself. You maybe don't love yourself that much. You're clearly not willing to put yourself first. Anybody who loves you wants you to put yourself first. If I love you, I just want you to be okay. I'm going to take care of myself. I just want you to take care of yourself. And how can I support that? How can I just make sure that you have all the love and support you need so that you can support yourself? Because I'm busy supporting myself. And in our free time, we get to have fun. And in our sad times, we can support each other through that. But we're not ever going to become enmeshed. We're always going to have really strong boundaries so that I know where I end and where you begin. And we get to just experience this life as two individuals. So, when you are experiencing the near enemy, usually it's gonna, if you're falling for the near enemy, not the real emotion, it's gonna create distance. Sympathy and pity create distance. Control creates distance. None of these things create actual connection. That video that Shoe Lover sent to me to try to build a bridge and help me see things differently did not build connection. It drew us much. I was like, okay, now I'm a little skeptical of most of your content because I know what you're literally just doing exactly what I'm doing in this podcast. You're hopping on somebody else's viral success to, step up a few notches to just improve yourself, which is great. No shade to you. Good for you. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just saying, don't act like you were trying to connect with me, my little tater tot, and help me understand and see things a little bit better, because that's not what you were doing. Because that act that she did, that was a near enemy act. That wasn't an act of love to my child. My child would have loved to have her mother, her father, and at least the adults, maybe not her siblings. She would have at least loved to have all of us hang out, grab lunch together, let her be the focus, let her pick out the dress. Shit, all of us could have chipped in on the dress, made it cheap for all of us. That would have been a beautiful, loving thing. What this woman did was the near enemy of that. She pretended like she was doing a loving, motherly act when what she was trying to do was step in the way. There's no need for a step parent in this situation. I don't bring men into my children's life like, here's your new daddy. He's going to live with us and he's going to, brush your teeth in the morning and he's going to buy your lunch. No, they're my fucking kids. You're maybe going to be like a funkle if you want to. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? That's weird. And the internet rallying around that and putting a woman down, a single mother down, is like the ugliest of ugly. And again, it got to me. It made me step back and take my breath for a minute, but it's never gonna keep me shut for too long. I definitely, that's not gonna work for me. So literally, Antonio Damasio, he's a professor of neurology, psychology, and philosophy. He says, we are not necessarily thinking machines. We are feeling machines that think. To think in any way that feelings don't matter, they don't affect you, you're somehow immune to processing emotions, you're just stone cold, that's not true. It's going to eat you up inside, one way or another. So in Atlas of the Heart, again, it is a book, but it's also a 4-part series on HBO Max, and to my credit, if I would have got, this was literally a live event that she held with a live studio audience that they had to attend all 4 things, all 4 sessions. And it's basically her giving, it's like a conference with a professor who's giving you her dissertation on this thesis she's been working on for 20 years. Even in this, she says her favorite tool for teaching is film and video that people can look at. So you can kind of see, you can kind of walk through the event that you're trying to explain to somebody. So even she says that in the movie. And that's all I can ever reference because it's the way my brain works. I just see things in my head and it just makes sense to put it that way. I just saw a TikTok today of a girl trying to explain what emotional processing is. And she's like, it's basically like taking a shit. It doesn't feel good. If you're constipated and you can't shit, that doesn't feel good. And you know what the solution is. You have to go shit. So you go to the bathroom and you know it's probably not going to feel good. But you know that once it's over, you're going to feel so much better. It's the same thing with processing emotion. Yeah, they fucking suck, but stuck inside, they fucking suck. And yes, it's not going to feel that great to process them and get them out, just like taking the actual shit. But once it's gone, you're going to feel better. And you have to wipe. there's gonna be a little bit of cleanup. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you gotta wipe 2-3 times. I don't know. Maybe you wanna like jump in the bathtub. I don't know. Maybe you have a bidet. Who knows? Just saying. It makes sense. So, with that said, the American Buddhist Pema Chodron says, she has a quote, and I just wanted to leave you with this. If someone comes along and shoots an arrow into your heart, it's fruitless to stand there and yell at the person. It would be much better to turn your attention to the fact that there's an arrow in your heart. Thank you for being with me. Till next time. My daughter just had her 6th grade graduation, and when I got to the school to see her walk her little stage and do her thing, she's wearing some outfit I've never seen. Turns out her stepmother, just the two of them, went shopping last night to buy her a dress for graduation. This is a milestone moment that I wasn't even included in on. How is that showing an ounce of respect? I birthed this child. She's my child. I'm the one that's known her from birth to 6th grade to be celebrating the fact that she's graduating 6th grade. You're the one that bought her a fucking dress. You couldn't even include me in on it. A milestone moment. You really think I stepmother have been in her life for 6 months, 8 months, however fuck long you've been in her goddamn life? You really think you have the right to go with her dress shopping for her fucking graduation and exclude me? That's respect. That's building a community and a village for children. That's what's best for the fucking children? Really? Get the fuck out of here.